What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Week 5 Studs and Duds film review recap, where we're going to break down what I saw on film from every game this week, talk about each team's outlook, and then whose stock is rising and falling as far as the players are concerned. One quick note before we get into it here. I know you guys enjoy the film element of this video, and as always, my analysis will be based on what I saw from the film, but unfortunately, the NFL has been playing the evil empire and putting copyright claims on my videos. And, you know, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. I could keep doing it, but unfortunately, my videos have been demonetized when I include the film. So as much as I would love to do that, I hope you guys can understand that this is a big chunk of my week, and I do kind of rely on these videos to stay monetized. So moving forward, I will not be including those highlights, unfortunately. But on the flip side, I might be able to get these out a little quicker each week, so at least there is that. And just a reminder to hit that like button if you enjoy this video every week. Really goes a long way towards growing the channel and stuff, so I appreciate that. All right. Let's get into it here, starting with the star of the week. Now, we don't have a dud this week, and there's actually a little bit less movement this week. I think that's going to be a little more of a trend just because, you know, the first 5 weeks we're really kind of learning what the landscape of this league is looking like, but things are kind of settling in now. Not to say players aren't standing out or disappointing, but it's just happening a little less. But our star of the week is a guy that's actually been rising the last couple weeks, Da'Shaun Hand. Mid-round pick, interior defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions, a rookie out of Alabama. Last year, we really saw Eddie Jackson, a mid-round pick, defender out of Alabama, break out. This year, Da'Shaun Hand, and he has gained weight. That is maybe what I like the most about this situation. He was a bit of a tweener. We didn't know if he was going to be an edge guy or what, but he has become a full-on defensive tackle. And I mean, you know, I talk about this a lot, how the snap counts can often tell you everything you need to know about what a team thinks about an interior guy, because you're either got a guy who's getting 20, 30 snaps and he's part of a rotation, or if the guy is in there on 80, 90% of the snaps, then that team really feels like he is a step above everyone else on the field and he is a true impact player. And that is what we've seen from Da'Shaun Hand in his last 3 games after really establishing himself as the starter here. So he seems to be, you know, one of those stud young interior linemen. It's going to be exciting to see his career continue to grow. He's only played 5 games, but he can stop the run, he can rush the passer, and is off to a great start in his career. It seems Detroit may have found one of, if not the biggest steals in this entire draft. So now let's get on to the games here. We're going to start with the Thursday night game, the Colts at the Patriots. Patriots definitely replanting themselves as one of the elite offenses in this league. I think a lot of us expected that. With Edelman coming off the 4-game suspension, of course, a big safety blanket for Tom Brady, but also the trade for Josh Gordon, opening things up vertically for this offense has been a big deal. So the offense is starting to click. They've also got some nice things going with these 2 running backs. I will say Sony Michel, you know, I'm not going to write him off or anything, and he's playing well. Obviously, he's producing, but he doesn't really pop to me. He doesn't seem to have great burst or power. His vision's fine. He doesn't really make a lot of guys miss. I'm willing to say that he could just be, you know, slowly learning NFL, and he's coming off an injury as well. So I'm willing to give him time. I'm not really selling my stock on him. But this is a guy that I didn't have in my top 10 for running backs in the draft. I did not love him coming out, and I don't really love what I've seen so far, even though he is producing. But selfishly, I do hope he works out. I got a lot of shares of Sony Michel in fantasy just because, you know, the Patriots clearly like him. They spent a first-round pick on him, and they're giving him a lot of opportunities. So the Patriots, things are going well. I'm still not sold on that defense. They'll continue to get better just schematically because that's what Bill Belichick does. But I still will stand by the fact that there's not a whole lot of talent in this defense at all. And then for the Colts, it's hard to assess this game because there were so many injuries. I thought Andrew Luck played great, but he's throwing to nobody. Notably, you do have the rookie second-round pick Braden Smith making his start at right tackle in this game. That is something that I thought we might see when they took Braden Smith. He's a really athletic guard in college, but he's 6'6", had all of the tools to play tackle, and he played really well at right tackle in this game. So the Colts continuing to really add to their line play on both sides, as I do like that defensive line as well, but really just missing skill players offensively and defense, they didn't stand much of a chance, even though I thought they played pretty well in this game. And I think they're going to turn their season around. I still think it's a talented football team just dealing with a lot of injuries right now. So studs and duds for this game. Just one out of this game, and it's coming from the Colts side, Eric Ebron. He's gone up once already this year, but he is clearly more comfortable here in this scheme and with this team with Andrew Luck than he was in Detroit. Now, he still has some drop issues, and you never really know when those are going to pop up, but he's been more sure-handed than he was in Detroit, and he's been probably this team's most reliable weapon with the injuries to T.Y. Hilton. So a good bounce back for Eric Ebron, really trying to prove himself as a guy that still has upside as a starting high-end tight end in this league, which is really what we're seeing to this point. So moving on to Miami at Cincinnati. Miami gets off to a really good start in this game. They get the punt return touchdown before half, and it was really looking like Miami, with a pretty solid defense, was going to close out this Andy Dalton team. But then the Bengals defense just turned it on. They were just ripping the ball away from Tannehill. One really lucky, fluky, fumble, pick, weird play resulted in a touchdown for Cincinnati. But it's a resilient Cincinnati team. Almost every win this year has been through some adversity, and they are going to have a real chance to prove themselves against the Steelers this week to really plant their flag as a legit, not just contender for this division, but in the AFC. And then for Miami, the offense was abysmal. Ryan Tannehill was terrible again. This is a team that is basically going to win games by forcing you to lose it. They're not going to come out and really win the game and assert anything. I think it's a good defense and a bad offense. Pretty mentally tough team, but it's just going to be tough for them to be consistent. So the studs and duds from this game: Vincent Taylor, defensive tackle, playing well on that good young interior there for Miami. Bobby Hart, an offensive lineman, moving over to the Cincinnati side. He's been starting at right tackle. They made this change after, Cedric Ogbuehi really was not the answer. And Bobby Hart, I don't know if he's the long-term answer, but he's better than what they've had at that right tackle position, and he's been playing better. And then Jesse Bates, the young free safety, he's already gone up a couple times this year. He's looking like, along with Deshaun Hand, one of the steals of this draft, especially because it is hard to find those true center fielding safeties, and Jesse Bates has been one of the best safeties in the league, not just rookie safeties. Kind of reminds me of what Marcus Williams was able to do as a rookie last year for the Saints, another second-round pick. And then next we've got Green Bay at Detroit. Sloppy game for Green Bay. Turnovers early in the first half. Rodgers looked like he was seeing ghosts in the first half. Detroit capitalized. They also get a touchdown right off the bat after a questionable overturned punt fumble thing that basically put the ball back in Detroit's hands when Green Bay had a chance to come out with a defensive stop early. But Detroit's offense was impressive in this one, specifically Kenny Golladay, who we will talk about. We already talked about the star of the week for Deshaun Hand. So after what was an awful start to the season for Detroit, there is some momentum here and some young players that you're at least getting excited about here, even if this might be another, 500 season for Detroit. But, I wouldn't rule them out to win this division, but I still would rank them probably last in terms of likeliness to win this division. And then on the Green Bay side, just a lot to clean up right now. Rodgers definitely looked healthier this week, moving much better. They need to get healthier. Overall, they were missing corners, receivers. They need to clean up these mistakes. We'll see how they respond against the 49ers this week at home on Monday night. So the studs and duds here, Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to go up for Green Bay. Pretty solid debut, a starting debut here. Is the rookie among these three with Jamon Moore and Equanimous St. Brown, who has clearly gained Rodgers' trust. Definitely a young, raw player, though. And then Kenny Golladay, who went up 2 last week, he's going up 2 again, so he now is tied with Marvin Jones. I think it's very clear right now who the better receiver of those two is. I mean, Kenny Golladay has become the go-to guy for this offense. Their offense virtually runs through Kenny Golladay and Golden Tate right now, and every week he is making just physically elite plays, whether it's catch and run or catching traffic. I just love everything I'm seeing from Kenny Golladay right now. He looks like a guy who is breaking out into one of the 10 best receivers in this league. I don't think this is the first time he's going to go up this year, especially if he keeps playing like this, obviously. But then we're going to get a -2 for LeGarrette Blount. We shredded EA for ranking him as like an 87 because he's slow. He doesn't create a lot of offense. He can basically just get you a yard maybe if you need it. But he's not even doing that well this year. So LeGarrette Blount has been a bust here. It's ridiculous how much better Kerryon Johnson is right now than LeGarrette Blount. I think every week we're going to continue to see Blount getting phased out as Kerryon looks really good. And then Deshaun Hand, our star of the week, we already talked about him. So our next game is going to be Denver at the New York Jets. Pretty surprisingly dominant game here for the Jets on both sides of the ball. The run game was going. Sam Darnold was throwing absolute seeds out there. I mean, just looked so good this week. Definitely helped by getting Robbie Anderson going as well, who's been just nowhere to be found this year. And then on the Denver side, really starting to get worried about this team as a whole. I mean, offensively, Case Keenum, it's just not really working. He's clearly a backup caliber guy with a lot of confidence, but he's starting to lose some of that confidence, and he's just not physically gifted enough to be a starter in this league. And then defensively, they've been disappointing as well. I mean, even Von Miller isn't having a very good year, so just things are not working here. I think Vance Joseph has about 2 or 3 weeks here to really save his job, but definitely trending down here for the Broncos. So the studs and duds, we mentioned Case Keenum. He is going to go down 1 this week. And then we do have a rise here on the Denver offense. Billy Turner stepped in at right tackle with Valdir out and held his own, so he's going to get a +1. And then for Denver, also following is going to be Bradley Roby, who's already gone down a total of 2 this year, was just torched in this game, and this team is probably regretting letting Aqib Talib walk here because they thought Roby was going to be the guy to step in, and he just has not been that guy. And it's not like they really have anyone else other than some veterans. So you're starting to get worried about this Broncos secondary. And then someone rising on the Jets secondary here, Marcus May. He's a young player out of Florida. I know a lot of Jets fans liked him heading into this year, kind of came on in the last couple games last season. Someone that I haven't really talked a whole lot about on this channel. Not that I don't like him, but I just was kind of waiting to see more. And he didn't start this year. I believe he was injured, but he has now started the last 2 weeks, and he's playing well. So he's going to get a +1 this week. We'll continue to monitor him. Next, we've got a good game here, which was Jacksonville at the Chiefs. For Jacksonville, you know, Bortles going to Bortles. You can really never trust him on the road. That offense is pretty much 100% reliant on the receivers catching crossing routes and making guys miss. Not exactly a sustainable offensive game plan, especially when you don't have Leonard Fournette to really pound the ball or a good drop-off option in Corey Grant. So things definitely trending down for the Jags offense. The defense is still fine, but any defense is going to struggle without any offense. And then on the Kansas City side, where it's been all offense and no defense until this week, we did see the defense start to step up more. And quietly not being discussed about this Chiefs team that we'll see if he really means it here on Sunday night, the emergence or re-emergence rather of Dee Ford as that complimentary edge rusher to Justin Houston that they've really lacked. This team has drafted edge rushers in the second round the last 2 years because Dee Ford fell off the face of the earth, but he's pressuring players at a high rate here. And, you know, it's not like this is turning into an elite defense or anything, but just to get that extra rush is definitely helping here. And, you know, at home against Jacksonville, it's not surprising that anyone would really play well on defense, but it does give them some momentum heading into a big Sunday night game here against the Patriots, where I'm actually picking the Chiefs. And we know this offense is good. The offense looked like we thought they would this week. So just one riser faller this week, and it's going to be Keelan Cole, who went up a few weeks ago, and since I did that, has been nowhere to be found. It's been much more D.D. Westbrook. DJ Chark actually got a little involved this week, so definitely coming back to earth here for Keelan Cole. Our next game is the Giants at the Panthers. This was a really exciting game, back and forth, big plays. The Giants scoring 30 points for the first time in like 1,000 days. And then on the Panthers side, Cam Newton was doing some fun stuff, just running people over. So fun game to watch. Ends up going to Carolina on a 63-yard field goal by Graham Gano. But when all is said and done, I don't think too much is changing here in terms of my opinion on these teams. I'm not ready to say that the Giants' offense is going to explode. It's not like Eli played very well in this game. We'll see them here Thursday night, which will happen before this video goes up. But the Giants' defense is so meh. I have nothing really to say about that defense. There's nothing really notable about it. And then the Panthers doing what we know they can do offensively and defensively. Again, struggles in the secondary a little bit, but the front seven's pretty good. I feel like we've got a pretty good grasp on both these teams at the moment. So the studs and duds for the week. Janoris Jenkins is going to go down 1, and he's really struggled. Was still kind of getting some of that respect from being one of the best corners in the NFL 2 years ago. Came down to earth a little bit last year, but was still solid and has taken another step back this year. So I think it was time to just bump him down a notch. Not that he's a bad player, but not having the best year. And then Taylor Moton, who was a star of the week a few weeks ago, continuing to play at a really high level at right tackle. So that's been a gift for this Carolina team. And then another surprising lineman here, Greg Van Roten, was just a backup veteran heading into the year, but he's been starting every game at left guard and playing at a high level, so he's going to get a little love here. Moving on to Baltimore at Cleveland, and the Browns. Baker Mayfield paying dividends to me. The first time I've ever picked the Browns on this channel, and they did it. They got it done. Baker had some really nice moments in this game, particularly if you've got NFL Game Pass. Go and watch the 2-minute drill to go down and score before half. The rest of the game was kind of whatever from Baker. He did limit his mistakes more this week, which was good to see. But really that 2-minute drill, it was like nothing was really happening all game, and then he just turned it on, which is something we've seen from like those elite quarterbacks like Rodgers and Brady, where things aren't going well, but they just are able to create offense. And we talk so much about that. And that was a criticism I had of Baker, is that I wasn't sure how much he was going to be able to create with tough throws, extending plays, and he's killing it. And I'm buying into Baker. I was way down on him, but I just evaluate what I saw, and I did not see this level of arm talent from my 12 games watching him at Oklahoma. And then the Browns defense got the job done here at home. And then on the Baltimore side, you know, they're losing some of their momentum. Still a really good team. I've never really said this offense is going to really travel well or be too explosive in general, but we do trust that defense. They've got a really big game this week in Tennessee. So as far as the studs and duds are concerned, just one here, Anthony Levine Sr. He's, you know, like that sub linebacker, bandit, safety, hybrid linebacker, whatever you want to call it. You know, he's a guy who's playing about 50%, 50% of the snaps, but when he's in, he really fits that role well. Covers in short distances extremely well. Really good tackler. Back-to-back great weeks here. So he's going to go up 1. And now we're going to move on to Tennessee at Buffalo. Really boring game. I came close to turning this one off a couple times, but I did stick it out. Not a whole lot to say here. The Titans offense has done this a couple times where they're not consistent enough. They don't have an identity offensively. They don't have really good receivers. Mariota's kind of meh. I don't love either of the running backs, but Tennessee's defense is legit. And then on the Buffalo side, their defense proving for another week here that they actually have a really good defense. And when they get to play at home, they can really play with anyone here. But the offense was very abysmal. They did get LaShawn McCoy going towards the end of the second half to go down and win this game. LaShawn McCoy made some really explosive plays, so at least they get some kind of excitement on that offense. But Josh Allen really didn't do anything in this game at all. So, you know, we'll see how Tennessee responds here against Baltimore at home. Buffalo's offense is just too bad. I don't think they're going to go anywhere, though. This is kind of what I've been saying from the beginning, is they would get 5 or 6 wins this year just because they can play good defense. But anyway, the studs and the duds here. 2 for Buffalo. Number 1 is going to be Matt Milano. He's been playing a lot of linebacker. He's a full starter now. You know, he's a bit of an undersized guy, but he's athletic out of Boston College, and he's been playing great in coverage, run defense, you name it. So he's going to get a +2 here. And then a rookie, Teron Johnson, out of Weber State. He started in the slot this game, but he's been having a good rookie year. He's going to get +1 this week. Keep an eye on him. Moving on to Atlanta at Pittsburgh. We definitely saw the fireworks we were expecting in this one, though mostly on one side of the ball. Atlanta is just a team that really has to play flawless offensively, and that's not what we got here, as their defense just is so bad right now due to all these injuries. But Pittsburgh definitely gaining a lot of momentum right now. You can start to feel it. The defense, the weather's getting colder, outdoor football at home. It's not like they're an elite defense, but they're blitzing more. They're getting after the quarterback. They're forcing mistakes. Really getting back to that aggressive Pittsburgh style of defense that you like to see. And they don't have to be even a top 20 defense. They just can't be that bottom 4 defense that we saw for the first few weeks. They just got to keep the other guys to like 25 points, and they should be fine, because this offense, especially when they get Le'Veon Bell back, is going to roll. But James Conner was really good this week, and this offensive line played really well. So just one stud this week. It is going to be James Conner. I hadn't given him any love for a few weeks, and he continues to play well, proving that he is a starting caliber running back in this league. Despite that being probably the most running back friendly system, he's taking advantage of it. Now moving on to Oakland at the Chargers. I still think Oakland has the worst defense in the NFL. They're too slow. Their best player, Carl Joseph, is injured. Now they're a smarter defense, and it's a big reason outside of the Cleveland game that they're not, giving up huge plays left and right, but they just are kind of getting picked apart between the margins just because of their physical ability as defense. And then offensively, you're going to get some inconsistencies with Derek Carr. He's fine. Solid quarterback. Also doesn't have a ton of weapons here. So the Raiders were really just outmatched here. This basically was a home game for the Raiders in the soccer stadium. But the Chargers took care of business. They're basically just buying any life they can until they get Joey Bosa here. So it's good for them to pick up another win, a division win. Defense gets the job done, but the offense continues to play very well. Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams even playing better. Offensive line holding up. So, and obviously Phillip Rivers is doing some really special stuff this year. So, studs and duds here. Maurice Hurst, glad to say we can raise him. He really broke out last week, and I'm a little higher on him, so I wanted to make sure we saw it a couple weeks before I raised him, but is essentially the starting defensive tackle here. Still part of a rotation, but getting more and more reps every week and looking really good. Haven't heard anything about that. What was it, a heart murmur or something that caused him to fall in the draft? But I mean, remember, this is a player that a lot of analysts, myself included, had him as a top 10 talent in the draft. He was my number 1 interior defensive lineman. He can stop the run. He plays with great leverage. He's very athletic. But most importantly, he can get after the passer. So could be a spark of young talent here that this Raiders defense needs after getting rid of Mack. And then an interior D lineman, a young player, Isaac Rochelle, on the other side of the ball for the Chargers. Still more to prove, I think, than Hurst, but is playing well, starting to get more reps every week, all that. So he's going to go up 1. Cardinals at 49ers. Don't really want to spend a lot of time on this game. Josh Rosen, the stats weren't great, but he's definitely an upgrade from Bradford right now. He's providing a spark to this team. They're moving the ball better. They're playing better defense because they don't have to be on the field all game. So things are looking better for the Cardinals. They do got to go to Minnesota this week. Now, obviously, winning that would be a huge statement. But for the 49ers, really not a whole lot to talk about. It's just kind of depressing right now if you're a Niners fan. Things were looking good, but now there's basically just cheering for a high draft pick. I will say some of the young defensive players are looking better here, and you can at least be excited that George Kittle is emerging as one of the game's elite tight ends. But other than that, you still need a lot of talent here, and you just don't have your quarterback right now. And then to make it even more boring, no studs and duds here. I thought this game played out about what you would expect based on how I'm ranking these teams, and no real standout performances in my opinion. So staying on the West Coast, in the NFC West, the Rams visiting the Seahawks. Seahawks playing really tough. They're going to be a tough out all year just because of the Russell Wilson effect. This team just has an innate toughness with Pete Carroll and Wilson and the leftovers of the Legion of Boom. But it was not enough in this game. Rams offense just too explosive. I do think that Rams defense is beatable. They haven't quite been the wrecking ball defensively that they were last year. They will get those corners back healthy, though, which will help. So the Rams continuing to roll. They get to 5-0, and the Seahawks drop a game that they would have loved to win there. So Tedrick Thompson, moving on to the risers and fallers. He's going to go up one. He's plugging in there at free safety with Earl Thomas departing. I was wondering who it was going to be. We found out Tedrick Thompson playing every rep there at free safety and played pretty well. So keep an eye on him there in that role. And then Chris Carson going to get a little love this week. He's been a pleasant surprise for this Seahawks team. They go running back in the first round, but Chris Carson's been their guy and their best running back on the season. Really physical runner. Basically plays like a less gifted Adrian Peterson. Now we've got the Vikings who are visiting the Eagles. Kind of a must-win game for both teams. The Vikings pull it out, making tonight's game an absolute must-win for the Eagles. But a tight game, the Vikings impressing with this offense, which is really a three-man show. Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, and Stephon Diggs. These guys are playing out of their minds right now. I did not think that this was going to look this good for this offense, but there are other problems here, like this offensive line. It makes you wonder how sustainable this thing is. I think I'm giving a lot of credit to this offense, but Kirk Cousins has never been a guy that eludes a lot of pressure and does a lot of play extension. When he's under pressure, he's under a historic amount of pressure this year. So that you would think isn't a great combination, but Kirk Cousins has been so impressive with hands in his face, eluding defenders, just throwing on the move. Like, if he continues to show this, like, what's the ceiling for Kirk Cousins? Because this has always been the big thing about him. And he has lost some fumbles under pressure this year. I mean, all quarterbacks do, but he does that at a higher rate than a lot of players. So we'll keep seeing how this works out here. But my goodness, if Kirk Cousins can play like he's played over the course of a season, he's actually worth that $30 million that we all thought was them basically just overpaying for a franchise quarterback, but he's playing like an elite guy right now. So props to Kirk Cousins. The Vikings defense, it's just fine. They still have good players. You still got Mike Zimmer, but I still think they have lost so much oomph without Everson Griffin. You're noticing the corners playing poorly. Xavier Rhodes has been really bad this year. Harrison Smith not having the same impact he had last year. These guys just got to cover longer, and they aren't playing as well. And then flipping over to the Philly side, we keep doing this talk of, okay, they're going to keep getting better every week. They get guys back. They gain more momentum. Not really what we saw this week. You're really worried, I think, about the secondary here. It's clearly a defining weakness of this team that they're really able to not necessarily hide, but hinder how big of an impact it had with an elite pass rush that has come down just a little step this year that's been enough. And then offensively, the offensive line's just got to start playing. It's like they're still on vacation or something. I do think they kind of dominate the Giants tonight. But again, this will come out after that. We'll see how that holds up. So just two risers here, both on the Viking side, and it's going to be Kirk Cousins getting a +1. We took it back. So we gave him a +1 after the Green Bay game. We took it back after the Buffalo game. So we're giving him that +1 back. And, frankly, based on how he played in this game, I almost put him up to an 82. So I don't think he's too many good performances away from that. And then Adam Thielen, proving that he is one of the elite receivers in this game. Probably the best ball tracking ability outside of Antonio Brown, but Adam Thielen is a few inches taller, so it's just a lethal weapon. So composed at the catch point, very physical, and he does everything else really well. So really impressed with both Thielen and Diggs, who went up a couple weeks ago. Now we've got the Sunday night game, Dallas at Houston. Low-scoring game. Both offenses struggling, for different reasons. Houston just can't really block anyone. Dallas just doesn't have any playmakers, so struggling for different reasons. But the defenses, both definitely trending up. Houston with that elite ceiling of a defense that we know they have with this pass rush. Starting to show some of that in this game. And they've now won back-to-back games in overtime. Can they make things interesting in this AFC South, which is just a mess right now? I have no idea who's going to win that division at this moment. Really is up for grabs. And then Dallas, it's embarrassing offensively right now. No one is really stepping up, whether it's the coaching staff, the offensive line, Dak, or these wide receivers. It's just a whole lot of average, and it's turning into a dumpster fire. So they got to figure something out offensively. I still think they have the talent to at least become a top 22 offense, because this defense is looking pretty good. We got a lot of talent on this defense, and it's a lot of young talent as well. So it's not all doom and gloom for the Cowboys, but this is a game I thought they should have won, especially because you look at the overtime situation. I mean, Jason Garrett, this was a fireable offense. And I went on like a Twitter rampage the second this happened. I had money on Dallas in this game. But that is just inexcusable. To punt the ball on 4th and 1 in overtime, you've won the toss, which is a freaking gift. There's no way I'm punting in overtime if it's less than 4th and 5 and my quarterback is anyone other than like Ryan Tannehill or Blake Bortles. Like, just go for it. Instead, they punt the ball away out the back of the end zone. How do you not have the situational awareness in the first place to go for it, but to tell your punter, you can't kick it out of the back of the end zone, dude? Like, we're playing field position for some reason, but you got the best running back in short yardage situations, in my opinion, in Zeke Elliott. Is there a running back in the league if you need 1 yard that you're going to other than Zeke Elliott? He's my guy. So that's just inexcusable. I would have fired Jason Garrett on the moment, like before the game's over. Like, the second they punt that ball away and it goes out the back of the end zone, I am making a call if I'm Jerry Jones and just telling him to get him off the field. It's so bad. Good job, Garrett. All right, that's enough. Let's move on. Studs and duds. Michael Gallup. We mentioned no one's really stepping up here. I thought Gallup was going to be a guy that really emerged here in Dallas, and he's just not. I mean, he's been playing fine, but he's a guy we had pretty high expectations on, so I think we need to tamper those a little bit. And then Jalen Smith is going to go up. Mentioned some young guys playing well in this defense. Jalen Smith, with the absence of Sean Lee, really, really emerging here. We know he's a high upside guy. He's starting to show more of that every week. All right, our last game here, Washington at New Orleans. Just a slaughter here in New Orleans. It was really all New Orleans from the get-go. I figured New Orleans would win pretty handily. I don't think it was going to be this bad, but Washington just was overmatched. Couldn't keep up offensively, and you know, Washington's defense, that they're going to give up big plays, and this is not a good matchup for this defense. So I still think Washington's going to be all right. I think they can get in the mix in this NFC East. But then for New Orleans, they're full pedal to the metal right now. They were my Super Bowl pick before the season started, and I don't think anyone wants to play this team right now. So the studs and duds from this game, Josh Norman. I'm a big Josh Norman guy, but his coverage has really not been all that for about 20 games now, and I still think he's a really solid corner, really smart guy, but from a coverage standpoint, just had to take him down a little bit. And then Traquan Smith, he's a receiver I was not very high on in the draft. I did not agree with the Saints taking him at 3, but they clearly saw something in him, and he fills in for Ted Ginn in this game, who was out, and Traquan's going to go back to the bench, so we're probably not going to see a whole lot of him this year, but he really showed that this guy can play and is definitely going to be a piece of this future. So that is going to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that like button if you did. Enjoy your weekend. Also, a reminder, I will be starting to stream the new Call of Duty this weekend on my Twitch, mixing it up a little bit on the streaming front. Might even need some of you to party up with, so make sure you're following me on twitch.tv/ThatFranchiseGuy if you want to check all that out. So cheers, guys, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.